My name is Celia Parrish. I'm 33. I lived in my parents' house for a decade, not because I had nowhere to go, but because they made sure I stayed. At first, it was just small things: rides to appointments, pharmacy runs, the occasional late-night call about a blinking thermostat. Then it became groceries, bills, coordinating surgeries, canceling trips. I stopped making plans. I stopped being someone with her own life. Then Rowan appeared. He worked part-time security at the outpatient clinic. Soft-spoken, steady, careful with his words. He noticed I always brought 2 umbrellas. He asked if I ever had time to sit still. I didn't answer, but he waited anyway. We dated quietly. No social media. No big announcements. I told myself it was privacy. In truth, I was protecting the only thing that wasn't already owned. He proposed after 2 years. I said yes, even though I hadn't asked anyone's permission. That was the first time I chose something entirely for myself. We kept it small. Courthouse vows, a simple dinner. I planned it alone. My sister complained about not being a bridesmaid. My mother called it a bit rushed. My father said nothing. 2 weeks before the ceremony, Rowan vanished. We were reviewing the guest list that evening. He stood up, said he left something in his car, and walked out the front door. He didn't come back. At first, I waited. Then I called. Then I drove to his apartment. It was empty, clean, lease terminated, no trace left behind. The police weren't concerned. Adults leave relationships every day, they said. It's not illegal. When I told my parents, they barely reacted. Well, my mother said, pouring tea, better now than later. My father glanced over his reading glasses. You'll bounce back. I was still wearing the ring. I canceled the wedding, handled it all myself, called the restaurant, the court clerk, the bakery, sent polite emails, took down the announcement. I boxed the dress and shoved it into the back of my closet. It didn't feel like grief, just another chore. Then I heard them. 2 nights later. I was walking past the kitchen when I stopped. The lights were off, but I could hear my parents talking. He agreed to it. Don't mention anything to her. It's handled. I didn't confront them. I just stood in the hallway and listened. Quiet. Motionless. The next morning, I watched more closely. My mother's errands slowed down. My father got a new phone. My sister dropped by with a bottle of wine and a smile I hadn't seen in years. They seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted, but it hadn't lifted off me. That's when I started keeping notes. Quietly, casually. Every comment, every change, every deposit. Not because I wanted answers, because I already knew something was wrong. I didn't ask questions, not because I was afraid of the answers, but because I already knew the shape of them. When someone disappears that cleanly, there's intention. When the people who raised you don't flinch, there's history. So I watched. The changes were small at first, subtle. My mother, who once double-checked every pharmacy coupon, started ordering groceries online. Not the budget staples we lived on for years, but imported teas and name-brand cheese. My father, retired civil engineer, proud of driving the same car for 15 years, suddenly booked a detailing appointment and added a new Bluetooth system. Their tone shifted too. My mother stopped asking if I was coping. Instead, she started planning vacations. "You'll have the house to yourself," she said casually, handing me a printout of their upcoming cruise itinerary. They hadn't traveled in 5 years. I nodded, smiled, and made a copy of the itinerary when she wasn't looking. That's how it began. Quiet logging. I bought a notebook from a corner pharmacy. Small brown cover, no markings. I labeled nothing, just recorded dates, amounts, overheard phrases, sudden mood shifts, receipts left on counters, bank statements in the recycling bin, travel reservations they thought I wouldn't notice. 2 weeks after Rowan disappeared, my father mentioned needing to call Margaret about that transaction. My mother nodded. She said it's already been wired. They didn't explain who Margaret was. I didn't ask. Later that night I remembered, Margaret was our estate lawyer. The one who helped set up their living trust. The one I wasn't supposed to know was involved again. That's when I called in a favor. Back in college, I'd helped a friend named Tara through a rough patch. Gave her my old textbooks when she couldn't afford hers. Let her crash on my couch after a fight with her roommate. Now she worked reception at a local firm, 2 blocks from Margaret's office. I didn't ask her to break any rules, just to let me know if anything seemed recent. She called me back that afternoon. "Your parents were in last week," she said. Whole folder of documents, new signatures, looked serious. "What kind of documents?" I asked. She paused. They wouldn't say. But it was about asset protection. Asset protection. From who? That same week, my sister started posting vacation photos, private pool, champagne flutes, designer sunglasses I'd seen on display at the boutique near her condo. Her caption said, "Family takes care of family." I hadn't seen her in weeks. The next time she visited the house, she brought pastries. My mother acted like it was Christmas morning. "Isn't she so thoughtful?" she said, beaming. "She said you've been sad," my sister added. "You know, with everything." I wanted to ask her what everything meant, but I didn't. Instead, I made coffee. And while they ate in the sunroom, I opened her purse, slipped her wallet out, took a photo of the American Express inside. The next day I called the card company. "Authorized user verification," I said, like I'd done it 100 times. "I just need to confirm the name on the primary account." The rep didn't hesitate. "It's under Margaret Parrish." My mother. I hung up, sat on the floor, stared at the empty wall like it owed me something. They weren't hiding it. They just didn't think I'd look. The next week, a letter arrived. It was addressed to me, forwarded from Rowan's old building. No return address, no stamp, just my name, in his handwriting. Inside was a single piece of paper. "I'm sorry, I couldn't do it anymore." That was it. No signature, no explanation, just 7 words. But the ink was fresh. The crease was recent, which meant he hadn't mailed it from afar. He'd left it nearby. I didn't cry. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into the old planning documents, the wedding registry account, the email we used for the venue, florist, caterer. One thread caught my eye, a message from the venue coordinator. "We've issued the refund as requested. Should show in the originating account within 3 to 5 business days." I blinked. I never requested a refund. And I never saw that money. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with my laptop open, cycling through inboxes I hadn't touched in months. Every confirmation email, every vendor thread. I didn't know what I was looking for until I saw it. Then I knew exactly what I needed. The venue's message hadn't been a mistake. They'd refunded the deposit 2 days after Rowan disappeared. The transaction timestamp matched the same afternoon my parents had called the estate lawyer. The refund didn't go to our joint account. It didn't go to my personal account either. It went to a third-party holding name, Parrish Revocable Family Trust. I'd seen that name once before, when I was helping file my parents' Medicare paperwork. At the time, I didn't ask questions. Now I was done not asking. I copied the refund number, logged into my bank portal, and searched for any matching deposits under my parents' accounts. Nothing, obviously. Then I remembered the paperwork Tara had mentioned. If they were moving assets, the trust had to be involved. So I called Margaret Parrish. Not my mother, the lawyer. I made the call from a borrowed number, claimed to be a freelance assistant verifying disbursement on behalf of a third-party vendor. I dropped in enough invoice numbers to sound legitimate. It worked. Margaret didn't give me details, but she confirmed that the trust had issued a discretionary disbursement to a private account 3 weeks ago. When I asked what the disbursement was for, she paused. "I'm afraid that information is confidential, Ms. Celia," I said flatly. The line went dead. 2 hours later, my mother called. "You're overreaching," she said. No greeting, no question, just a cold statement layered with offense. "I didn't say anything about you," I replied. "Don't lie," she snapped. "I just got off the phone with Margaret. What exactly do you think you're entitled to?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth had already cracked through her voice. She hung up. I opened a fresh page in my notebook and wrote 3 words. They bought him. It wasn't a theory anymore. It was the only explanation that made sense. Rowan hadn't ghosted. He'd been paid. By them. I spent the next week confirming what I already knew. The bakery deposit I'd paid? Reimbursed. Directly into my mother's account. The floral arrangement? Canceled and credited to a card that didn't belong to me. Even the hotel block we'd reserved for guests showed a cancellation request sent from my sister's email. She hadn't even been on the reservation. Piece by piece, the wedding had been dismantled, not by accident, not by Rowan, but by my family. There was only one piece missing. The conversation. The one I knew had happened, the one I needed to prove. I found it in an unlikely place. Rowan had once connected his phone to the Bluetooth speaker in our shared car. When I checked the device logs, one entry caught my eye. Unknown contact, 1402, February 19th. The day he disappeared. I synced the device to my laptop and pulled the cache. One audio file. Short. 31 seconds. Crackling. The hum of an engine. Then his voice. "I'm doing what you asked. Just make sure it's enough." Silence. Then my mother's voice. "It is, but don't come back." Click. That was it. No names, no context, but it was enough. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I just backed up the file, stored 3 copies on separate drives, and closed the laptop. That night, I made dinner like I always did, washed the dishes like I always did, sat through my mother's commentary about the neighbors' poor landscaping choices like I always did. But inside, something had shifted. I wasn't angry. I was done. I didn't yell. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't even explain. I just started removing myself. First came the daily things. Small tasks they never noticed until they stopped working. The medicine reminders? Gone. The grocery deliveries I scheduled? Canceled. The bill payment alerts? Turned off. They thought the apps were buggy. They blamed the internet. They never blamed me. They never thought I'd leave. Next came the subscriptions. I dropped off the shared phone plan, closed the joint Amazon account, ended the family Netflix that I had paid for since year 4 of caregiving. They noticed, but only briefly. "Why is this screen locked?" my father asked one night. "Maybe your password expired," I said, keeping my tone flat. They didn't push. I was still making their coffee, still driving them to appointments. I still smiled when they asked if I had met anyone new. They didn't know I was already moving on. I started preparing for something they never imagined. Life without them. It began with a new bank account under a name that didn't trace back to theirs, my middle name and my grandmother's surname. I funneled in small amounts from side work. Then I took it further. I sold my old jewelry. The pearl earrings my mother gave me when I turned 25. The vintage watch my uncle passed down. All of it went. Quietly, no tears, just transactions. Then I formed a business, small, private, quiet. CP Quiet Systems, No website, no logo, no one but me. I offered process consulting and compliance audits, the same work I used to love before they pulled me home to help for a few months. I sent out emails to 3 old clients. 2 replied. 1 hired me. Within 4 months, I had 5 clients, monthly retainers, stability. They didn't notice. They were too busy thinking I was stuck, too busy believing I was still dependent. That's what happens when people mistake your silence for weakness. One day, while sorting old mail, I saw a sealed packet with legal markings. It was a trust update notice, probably sent by mistake. I opened it. The parish family trust had been revised. 3 changes. I was no longer listed as a medical proxy. My name had been removed from the emergency access forms. The support beneficiary section had been rewritten entirely, with only my sister's name. No explanation, no warning, just erasure. They had already decided I was no longer part of the future, so I stopped acting like I was. I made one final change. I called the estate planning office. I want to remove my name as emergency contact for both Margaret and David Parrish, I said. The woman on the line asked why. I said, because it's not my job anymore. And that was it. I didn't announce my decision. There was no speech, no slammed doors, no suitcase by the stairs. I just walked out. That morning, my mother asked me to refill her pill box. My father was half asleep in the recliner, TV humming in the background. I said, "Sure," and went to the kitchen. Instead of organizing medications, I packed my things. Only the essentials: laptop, toothbrush, chargers, the black folder with my business papers, a few clothes, no keepsakes, no family photos, nothing sentimental. I left my house key on the table next to a coupon booklet for denture cream and an unpaid utility bill. By noon, I was gone. No one stopped me. No one even looked up. They didn't realize until 2 days later. The texts began quietly. "Mom, did you go somewhere? Your room looks empty?" Then came the voicemails. My father's voice, confused but still trying to sound casual. "Celia, let me know if you're staying somewhere else." Your mother's a bit worried. Worried. That was a word they never used when I stayed up all night to monitor their breathing, when I skipped weddings and birthdays to attend specialist appointments, when I broke off friendships because caregiving didn't leave room for anything else. But now that I was missing, now they worried. I didn't reply. Instead, I made coffee in my new apartment, a 1-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. No stairs, no medical alarms, no one calling my name every 5 minutes. The silence felt heavy at first, then it felt like peace. I got to work. I built my small consulting firm quietly, using the business name I'd registered months ago. Clients returned, projects rolled in, one even paid up front. I didn't post anything publicly, no Instagram comeback, no Facebook status. I simply re-entered the world they thought I'd forgotten. Meanwhile, they scrambled. Another text came from my sister. "Anna, what are you doing? Mom says you just left. They're old, Celia. You can't ghost your parents. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Because this wasn't ghosting. This was withdrawal. This was me resigning from a job I never applied for. For 10 years, I had been their unpaid employee, their crisis manager, their cushion, their silence. Now I was just gone. I forwarded my mail, changed my number, kept one line open just in case there was a real emergency. But I didn't respond when they asked where the spare insulin was, or how to schedule their quarterly labs, or when the house insurance was due. They'd have to figure that out now. 2 weeks passed. A certified letter arrived, forwarded from my old address. It was from the estate planning office. Apparently, a new version of the family trust was in draft, and they still had me listed as the emergency power of attorney. I sent back a signed removal form. No explanation, just one checked box, no longer available to serve. That's when I knew they'd feel it. Not the silence, but the absence of function. Because love never mattered to them the way service did. They didn't want a daughter. They wanted a system. And now, the system had shut down. When I left, I didn't slam the door. I just stopped answering. They didn't notice at first. A few missed calls, a few texts. Then Anna came knocking. Twice. I wasn't home either time. She left notes taped to my mailbox. They need you. And later, this isn't fair to them. They never asked if any of it had been fair to me. 2 weeks passed. Then small problems started piling up. The online pharmacy account locked them out. My father had forgotten the password. They missed 2 medication refills. The dryer broke. My mother tried to fix it by unplugging it and plugging it back in. It stayed broken. Laundry started piling up in the hallway. I didn't gloat. I didn't even watch. I just kept moving. For the first time in 10 years, I wasn't managing their chaos. Anna tried to fill the gap. She posted photos of herself in the house, folding towels or cooking pasta. She sent one to me with a message. See? We're surviving. But surviving wasn't what they were used to. They were used to being maintained. That's what I had done. Quietly, efficiently, without complaint. And now that I was gone, they were realizing just how much I had held together. One night, Anna called. I let it go to voicemail. They're not doing well, she said, voice tight. They're tired. The house is falling apart. Maybe that's what you wanted. No, I thought. What I wanted was to be treated like a daughter, not a full-time unpaid nurse, not a backup plan, not a burden they could pay off and replace. The power bill went unpaid. The cable was cut off. My father had always said I overreacted when I tracked due dates. One late payment doesn't mean anything, he used to grumble. Now it meant no internet, no Netflix, no emails, no way to watch church services online. They called the neighbor for help. He didn't answer. By the end of the month, the kitchen sink clogged. They used a plunger. It overflowed. Anna showed up again. This time, she didn't smile. You've made your point, she told me at my door. Now come home. I didn't let her in, because I wasn't trying to make a point. I wasn't punishing them. I was just done. They thought I left to teach them a lesson. But the truth was simpler than that. I left because I finally believed they never saw me. Not as a woman. Not as someone with her own future. Not as someone worthy of protecting. They had traded me for control. Paid a man to leave me because they didn't think I deserved love unless they approved of it. And when I finally left, they didn't apologize. They just called it inconvenient. The next day I got a letter, handwritten. From my mother. Celia, we know you're angry. We didn't handle things perfectly, but we love you. Come home. We'll talk. No mention of the money. No mention of why I left. Just a soft demand wrapped in guilt. I folded the letter and placed it in the same drawer as everything else I'd buried. Because the truth was already obvious. They didn't miss me. They missed the version of me who served without question. That version was gone. And the silence? It wasn't punishment. It was peace. I didn't call. I didn't text. I walked in through the back door with the spare key they forgot I had. The kitchen looked smaller than I remembered. Dimmer. The table was cluttered with unopened mail, empty pill bottles, a cracked pair of reading glasses. The fridge hummed louder than it used to. They didn't hear me at first. My father sat in the living room, his legs stiff, holding the remote like he wasn't sure how it worked anymore. My mother was asleep in the recliner. The TV played some antique show on low volume. I didn't announce myself. I just stood there, watching them sit in the same seats where I used to fetch meds, cook meals, fix passwords, pay bills. It was strange to see them look small, not fragile, not dying, just unheld. Eventually, my father looked up, blinked twice. "Celia." I didn't respond. My mother stirred. "You came." No apology, no explanation. Just that. Like it was a given. Like I'd been rude for taking space to breathe. "You didn't answer our letter," my father said. "We were worried." I stayed standing. "You were worried I'd stay gone." He didn't deny it. "We've had some difficulty," my mother said, straightening her blouse. "Anna's been helping." I said nothing. "We thought maybe we could talk about what happened." I pulled a chair out and sat, calm, still. "I want to make something clear," I said. "You didn't lose me because I'm sensitive. You lost me because you paid a man to walk away." My mother flinched. My father's jaw tightened. "That's not how it was. He took the money. We thought he was using you. You thought love was something you got to approve of." Silence. Heavy, real. I reached into my bag and pulled out a file. Just a few sheets. I slid them across the table. "What's this?" my mother asked. "The home," I said. "The deed." They stared at it, confused. I continued, flat and quiet. "I took my name off it last year." "You what?" my father said, leaning forward. "You remember when you needed me to co-sign the reverse mortgage? I was still listed then, but the bank said I could file a quit claim and have it removed, so I did." Quietly. "Why would you do that?" "Because I saw it coming." My voice never rose. I let the words land slow and sharp. "You were going to sell this place someday and pretend I'd never been part of it. You were going to give it to Anna, or use the money to fix something for her, or move closer to her kids. And I was going to be the unmentioned chapter." "That's not fair," my mother said, her voice shaking. "No," I said, "but it's true." They looked at each other. I reached back into my bag. "This is a statement from the joint account I used to manage. It shows the transaction, the money you gave him, the exact moment he disappeared." My father looked down. My mother finally said it. "We thought we were protecting you. You weren't. You were choosing control." The silence after that was different, less defensive, more exposed. I stood. "I'm not here to reconcile," I said. "I came to say this face to face, so you'd stop spinning the story. I didn't run. I didn't break. I made a choice." "What do you want?" my father asked. "I want you to know I see you clearly now. I want you to know the woman you erased is still standing. Just not for you." They didn't follow me when I left. They didn't call. They didn't scream or cry or slam doors. They just sat there, together, quiet and aging, in the house I no longer belonged to. And for the first time I felt free. I didn't return to the house. Not for holidays, not for my father's mild stroke, not when Anna said Mom was getting worse. I wasn't being cruel. I was being done. While they unraveled, I rebuilt. I changed my last name, Parrish, and started a consulting business under C. Parrish No Family Ties. No questions, just contracts and clean boundaries. It grew quickly. 3 years passed. I moved into a condo under an LLC, paid in full, quiet, clean, untouchable. They never asked where I went, and I never told them. Then something strange happened. People started paying attention. One paper I wrote about nonprofit workflows went viral. An invite followed to speak at a women's leadership event. I stood in front of a full room and said, "I spent a decade giving everything to people who didn't value it. I thought that made me good. It only made me invisible." They stood and clapped. The clip went online. 1 million views in a few days. That's when I heard from my mother. An email. "We're proud of you." No apology, just a living room photo, renovated, polished, like showing me new furniture could erase what they did. I didn't respond. They'd already lost me, not out of hate, just consequence. I didn't mean to become visible. A journalist called about a piece on women who left caregiving roles to become founders. Someone gave her my name, C. Parrish. I gave a short interview, nothing personal, just facts. The article ran, "Celia Parrish, from caregiver to quiet powerhouse." It wasn't viral, but it spread. A few business journals picked it up, a podcast mentioned it. Then came a panel invite, and then the texts. My sister first. "Wow, you're really using Parrish now? Thought we weren't airing dirty laundry." Then my mother. "You've always been a Vinton. Don't forget where you came from." But they had forgotten me long before I dropped the name. The final message came from my father, an email with attachments. They needed help. The house was underwater, a few quiet loans, property tax issues, pensions miscalculated. They wanted me to fix it. The daughter they once bought silence from, now their lifeline. The last sentence read, "We're willing to discuss rebuilding trust and family unity." I printed my article, wrote one line on a sticky note and attached it. "You said I didn't deserve anything. Now you can have exactly that." No response, no explanation. I mailed it to their house and didn't look back. I didn't go back for their funerals, not out of hatred, just clarity. I had already buried what mattered years earlier, quietly, alone, without ceremony. When they died, my sister sent a letter asking if I wanted anything from the estate. I didn't open it. I already had everything they said I didn't deserve. My own name, my own company, my own home, quiet, sunlit, no ghosts. I chose every piece of furniture, every wall color, nothing inherited, nothing gifted, nothing owed. Some days I passed women who looked like who I used to be, carrying groceries in silence, apologizing before speaking, smiling too much to be safe. I didn't approach them, but I wrote, I gave talks, interviews, not about success but survival, about being erased in your own house, about the grief that doesn't start with death. I told the truth. And when someone wrote me back, just once, to say, "You helped me leave," that was enough, because this wasn't a story about revenge. It was about release, the kind that doesn't need applause, or permission, or anyone to finally say, "I'm sorry." They said I was too much, then not enough, then a burden. And when I finally walked away, they were quiet, just like I'd learned to be. Only now I was quiet on my terms, and I wasn't waiting for anyone to notice.